Everyone, and welcome to the webinar on registration and listing of social enterprises on the Social Stock Exchange. The Sustainability Reporting Standards Board, also called the SRSB, along with the Institute of Social Auditors of India, would like to extend its warm welcome to all the attendees present for the webinar. I can assure that we have a very interesting presentation lined up for today by an industry expert in the subject matter. Also, on this webinar today, we have the chairperson of the SRSB committee, CA Preeti Salva ma'am. To give you a profile of ma'am, she's a fellow member of the ICI with more than 22 years of rich experience in multiple areas such as accounting, auditing, sustainability, corporate governance, CSR, and risk management. She's also the Central Council member of the ICAI and chairperson of the Women's Members Empowerment Committee and vice chairperson of the Valuation Standards Board. She has represented ICI on multiple forums in and outside India, such as the SAFA Committee on Sustainability Reporting. Ma'am, I would like to thank you for being a part of the webinar today, and I would request you for introductory remarks for us to commence the webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Aman, and welcome all of you to this webinar. And we are named as a Sky High Symposium. Welcome to Vishal, the speaker, and the Ruchi, and Aman, and all my dear participants. And this is a very interesting topic. And since last 2 years, we are working hard along with the regulators in this area. And as such, we have been in 2019, Honorable Finance Minister in her budget has announced about the social stock exchange to come up in India. And since then, the committee has been formed. And however, due to COVID, the things have been stalled. But last year, again, the things have restarted. And being my first year in the council and vice chairperson of Sustainability Reporting Standard Board, I got an opportunity to work a lot in this area. And we have developed 16 social audit standards as well as social audit framework, and this is which are totally aligned to 17 UN SDGs. And the concept of social stock exchange has been started, and there with the announcement of the FM, the entire thing has come. The SEBI is the regulator, and the SEBI has and we have as a ICA been part of this committee which has been formed by SEBI as a part of social stock exchange. And at present, there are 7 countries in which social stock exchange is existing. However, in 3 countries, namely Singapore, Jamaica, and Canada, it is working. However, the concept in India is much, much different than what the other countries have. Here, the NGOs also have the support in terms of capacity building fund, which is developed under NABARD, where the SIDBI, NABARD, stock exchanges are also part of it. And they are planning to develop some 100 crores fund, and the support will be given to the NGOs who are being registered. That will be for the listing purpose. The concept is all about the charitable trust or NPOs, or we can say Section 8 companies or cooperative societies, having the objective of the 16 thematic areas like education or the medical for the underprivileged children. And there are like that some other areas which will be dealt in detail in this session, will be eligible to get registered under the social stock exchange. And what is social stock exchange? It is an additional arm under our both the exchanges in India, that is National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. I have also been opportunity to be a part of governing council member of social stock exchange, where we have devised a lot of work regarding the registration and listing of NPOs for on the exchange. Then accordingly, after the social audit standards, we have reached out to various NPOs and various other professional bodies. We have also, the SEBI has come out with a circular, and I'm happy to share with all of you that the name of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India is also mentioned in that circular. As SEBI has said, the SRO should be developed under ICAI, and we have developed Institute of Social Auditors of India, which is 100% subsidiary of ICAI. And once the exam as a social audit any chartered accountant gives, they can actually register with ISAI, as a social auditor. The exams will be conducted by NISM. We have also an MOU with NISM so that we have supported them to develop the study material. Further, friends, this NISM is conducting the exam regularly for becoming the social auditor. At present, there are about 500 social auditors, and the ISAI is regulating them since registration till everything. So this is the very new concept. So first is registration. There are various KPIs indicators developed for the conditions to register on the stock exchange. That is basically like it should be minimum 3 years old trust, and minimum donation received should be at least 50 lakhs in the last year, or 10 lakhs should be the 10 lakhs should be received, and 50 lakhs should be spent in the last year. So all those conditions are there, which will be dealt in detail by Vishal in the session. Once, what is the benefit of it? And so the main purpose is that at present the funds are, sometimes the trust are not getting the required funds for their activities. So once the registration is done, the listing can also happen by way of getting the funds by way of ZCZP, that is zero coupon, zero principal instruments. And there are various other ways like social venture fund and the bonds, social investment bonds, all those things are also there. At present, however, exchanges have already started with the ZCZP instruments. And friends, at present, there are 40 plus NPOs who are already registered on the exchanges. Their targets is high, and they are actually thriving for the same. However, for listing purpose, only one registered NPO has already gone for listing, and they have gone for minimum size is 1 crore. However, SEBI recently has reduced that size, so all those things will be dealt in detail. So, as we have seen that chartered accountants are either trustee in the NPOs or they are the auditors. So it is always they are in connect with the trustees as an auditor. It is an opportunity for the chartered accountant to get these their trust in which they are connected, either listed, registered, or listed on the exchange. Post that they can also other opportunities as a social audit. It is mandatory for the registered as slash listed companies, listed NPOs to get that account their accounts as a social audit. And this is a non-financial audit. All the 16 thematic areas and the social audit standards are available on the website of ISAI as well as ICAI. One can go through that. So, however, we have done a lot of work into this, and ensure that our members, our own members, get the opportunity in these areas of the social stock exchange and social audit. It is always our endeavor to serve the best for the members of our institute, and we thrive for that, and we ensure the same. And we ensure that the regulators also keep the same thing in mind. With these words and these opening remarks, I welcome all of you to this webinar on social stock exchange, registration and listing purpose. And I really thank my secretary Rangoli, as well as Aman, Ruchi, and Vishal for being agreeing to this session. This will really help a lot to the participants. Over to you, Aman.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. Next, I would like to throw some more light on the topic and introduce our guest speaker for today. So, to give everyone a background on the topic, the Social Stock Exchange is an electronic fundraising platform that allows alternative fundraising structures to social enterprises. As ma'am said, the genesis of this idea was first raised as a budgetary speech by the Honorable Finance Minister in 2019-2020 with an intent of making capital markets more accessible to the masses and meet the development goals. It is established under the ambit of SEBI and allows the listing of social enterprises on stock exchange to raise funds for their projects. As a part of this webinar, we will further dive deeper and discuss about the registration and listings of social enterprises on the social stock exchanges. We will discuss on topics such as social stock exchange as a platform, the architecture of raising funds through stock exchanges, the eligibility criteria of social enterprises and NPOs, the benefits of listing on stock exchanges, the process of listing, the timelines and other requirements, and then we'll also open the floor for Q&A by all the attendees. So to introduce our guest speaker, we have CA Vishal Sancheti with us, who is the CFO and Vice President working in the investment banking arm at Galactico Corporate Services Limited. Vishal is a chartered accountant and a CFA Level 2 candidate. He has graduated from the HR College, Mumbai. He has worked with a member firm of RSM International and KEC International, which is a flagship company of the RP Goenka Group. He leads valuation practice at Galactico and has handled more than 450 valuation transactions. He also specializes in the due diligence of alternative investment funds and advises clients in finalizing of fund documents like private placement memorandum, investment manager agreement, trust deed, and contribution agreements. He regularly advises on transactions like demergers, takeovers, private placements, slump sales, right issue, and purchase price allocation study. Thank you, Vishal, for being a part of this, and I will be handing over the session to you to commence the webinar. Over to you, Vishal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Aman. I would first like to thank Preeti ma'am for giving this opportunity and for giving the opening remarks and throwing some lights on the topic. Thank you, Aman and Ruchi and the entire ICI team for the like arranging this thing. Okay. Like we have an interesting topic on hand, which is registration and listing of social enterprise. And just to confirm, I've started the screen sharing. I hope it is visible. Please confirm.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Thank you. Yes. So we have an interesting topic, which is social stock exchange and how to register on the same and how to proceed with the listing part on it. So this has been a new domain which has been recently developed and recently came into picture, right? And so historically in India, if we see the markets, there have been for-profit organizations which are the listed and raise funds through BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange, or National Stock Exchange, maybe through main board IPO or through SME IPO or through issuance of debt securities. But now, like SEBI came up with this regulations for social enterprises basically, and so moving forward, I'll be using some of the like grocery abbreviations like so let us go through once. So I'll be using some abbreviations like NPOs frequently, which is non-profit organizations, ZCZP. It is an instrument which will be listed zero coupon, zero principal instrument. So we'll be in detail understanding the features of that instrument and how it will be listed, what is the process for it. Fundraising document, FRD, it is similar to a document, it's an offer document similar to a prospectus or a DRHP, which is usually filed for other issuances in the public market. The other SSC is social stock exchange. So like NSC is a national stock exchange, BSE is Bombay Stock Exchange. Social stock exchange is a separate segment on which this ZCP instruments will be issued, right? Then there is social development bonds, which is one more instrument which may be coming in the future. Then there are some other abbreviations like AIF, Alternative Investment Funds, Social Impact Fund, Social Venture Fund, and importantly is the last one, which is LODR, Listing Obligation and Disclosure Requirements. So this is an important topic. So when these NPOs will release their securities on the social stock exchange SSC, like LODR will be applicable, and we have to have the disclosure requirements in place. So that's the reason we speak on that topic as well. Now, to understand, to give background exactly as to what is the social stock exchange. So, predominantly funds were raised by BSE and NSE for profit-making organization, and now NPOs can raise funds, and NPO can raise funds across the breadth of the country, and this will give many benefits to the NPOs. Like NPO will be able to raise funds. So there are two steps. So this listing process is divided into two steps. One is registration and second is listing. So the registration can be done on BSE SSE, Bombay Stock Exchange, Social Stock Exchange, or NSE SSE. So there are two stock exchanges on which these NPOs can issue their and list their ZCHP instruments. So the instrument which is underlying zero coupon, zero principal is one of the instrument which we'll be discussing. Now, why this social stock exchange came into picture? We are very much well aware that there are thousands of NGOs, NPOs in India, and they're at times they don't have funds. At times, uh, like people have concern as to if they should donate or not. If the funds donated will be utilized in a proper and in a manner which is for the interest of the NGO. So these are the concerns. And now for to look into these aspects, this social stock exchange platform has come in, whereby social capital will be available to NPOs at large, and there'll be complete transparency as well. So now how does transparency come? So for example, if a listed company, when it's a listed entity in market, it has to give all the disclosure. It has to comply all the requirements of stock exchange as well as the SEBI regulations. In a similar fashion, when an NPO raise funds through issuance of ZCZP or other instruments, they have to comply with listing agreement. They have to comply with SEBI ICDR regulations and LODR regulations, and therefore they are complying with these regulations. So the compliant part is taken care of. Second is they have to, the important part here for these NPOs would be they'll be giving impact report also, right? So for example, any NPO has raised funds to the tune of 1 crore rupees and they are utilizing it for over a period of say 8 months. Now that NPO has to tell if they are doing this project in the state of say Madhya Pradesh and for a specific purpose, then they have to measure the impact. They have to tell this impact, how they have spent it, and they have to submit this report on the stock exchange, which will be visible to the public at large. So by this, there is complete transparency between the NPO and the donors. So the donors, जो for example a person किसी को donate करना है, it always comes to their mind कि if I am donating, क्या मेरा पैसा जो purpose के लिए मैं donate कर रहा हूँ, क्या वो उसमें use होगा? This is always a question to everyone, and for this platform will be a very useful platform because there will be complete transparency, there will be annual compliances, annual disclosures, and therefore there is transparency between investors and the donors with respect to aim and object and the fundraise. So everything will be there. Now, as far as this structure, how is the architecture? So for profit-making entities, the funds are being raised through SME IPO, main board IPO, or they issue debt securities. For NPO, it would be primarily through issuance of ZCZP, zero coupon, zero principal. Now, this zero coupon, zero principal is an instrument, as the name suggests. The funds will be taken, right, as a donation, and then there will be no repayment. There is no principal to be repaid. It doesn't have any interest. It doesn't have any dividend. It doesn't have any coupon at the end of the period. So it is zero coupon, zero principal. It will be similar to a donation, and it is defined as a designated securities in the ICDR regulations. So that will be first instrument. So second would be social venture fund or social impact bond. Like this will be or donations through MF schemes. These are the so bonds, social development bonds or social impact funds. These are the future. These are the instruments which will be used in future for the and more evaluation is going on that, and maybe more rules and regulations are being prescribed on that. But yes, it will be coming in future. So social to give an example, social development bond will be a instrument whereby there will be two parties to it. One will be a outcome funder, and second will be a risk funder. So for example, there is an instrument of 1 lakh rupees and that instrument is being raised. So the outcome funder will subscribe to that instrument and will commit funds to it only if the target social impact is being attained. For example, what was the impact for which the project was raised and the impact is attained, then he will participate. and the risk funder will gain in the money here. So he will take the risk, he will fund the project at the start, and then transfer the same to the funder, the outcome funder. So that is the topic of social development bond. Now, focusing on zero coupon, zero principal is our primary motto here, because that is the instrument right now we'll be talking on and which are getting listed. Also, listing of ZCHP is one topic. The registration of ZCHP as an NPO on the BSE or NSE stock exchange is one more topic here. Now, like, what is the registration? So, like, first step is registration, and second is the listing part. To give some more clarity or have some more clear thought on this, an NPO or an NGO, or for example a Section 8 company who can register as an NPO, it can be either a public trust or a Section 8 company or a trust registered under Indian Trust Act or a society. So this entity can be registered as a NPO on the stock exchange. They can stay there, they can get themselves registered. However, they can choose if they want to get listed or not. They have an option. Having said that, there is a certain process through which they'll be registered. There is some criteria and underlying requirements which they need to fulfill to get registered and stay registered, because there is a renewal process also. So Section 8 company, for example, let us take a Section 8 company who is working in the space of say Karnataka, and it is working for girls, so education of girls. So now in the education sector, that means, so now if that Section 8 company has to register on the stock exchange, it has to fulfill certain criteria, like it has to be in operations for more than 3 years. So there should be a track record of 3 years. Okay. Then there should be a valid ATG registration in place. There would be some registrations like 12A certificate should be there, 12AA certificate should be in place, and should be a valid registration. Also, they have to submit these documents to stock exchange and then they get registered. So these are some criteria. Along with it, there are some quantity or the numbers which needs to be in place. So there are some metrics also which I'll discuss. Before moving ahead, if there may be a question regarding political organization or religious organization or corporate foundation. So for example, any corporate which is there in India, and if they have got any NGO or a Section 8 company which is receiving funds, majority of funds are receiving from the corporate, their own corporate, so it won't be able to register. So if an NGO is getting funds from their corporate body for more than 51%, they will not be able to register. Now, let us understand what is a social enterprise and what are the eligibility criteria for it, right? So this is the step 1. Right now, we are discussing on the step 1, which is registration. On the listing part, which will be step 2, we'll be discussing later. So for a social enterprise, they have to, there are some criteria. Like as we mentioned, there'll be ATG registration, 12A or 12AA registration in place, 3 years of track record. They have to spend minimum of 50 lakhs in the last financial year. They have earned or they have raised funds to the tune of more than 10 lakh rupees. These are some numbers. Apart from this, there are 2-3 more criteria which are required for the registration purpose. Now, what is those? One is being 67%, so which is 2/3. So whatever their average revenue is, it should be coming from the eligible activities. For example, if any trust is there and it has been serving for poverty, or if they're working for towards the goal of livelihood, so their revenue should be coming 67% from that sector, as well as their expenditure, or their expenditure should be 67% for that eligible towards the goal of livelihood. So this is the criteria here, right? Now, what are the criteria? Which are the list of fields on which this activities can be done. So there are 16 odd activities, 16 activities which have been listed in ICTR regulations, like hunger, malnutrition. If an entity is working towards this specified activities, they're eligible. Okay, along with the other criteria which we'll discuss and which are there, but this is also predominantly. So this will prove the social intent of that organization or that entity, and therefore these are to be checked. So if an entity is working towards healthcare, they're working towards livelihood, towards promoting of or preservation of heritage, or promoting sports activity, or they're working for employability or environmental sustainability. So these are some 16 criteria. So we have to check that NPO, for example, Section 8 company does a tick mark over here as well. Third is this enterprise should be targeting to the undeserved or less privileged people. And this can be looked upon as well, and where the performance or the development priorities, which as per central government or state government, is important. So this has to be looked. So what is the target segment to it? Right. Now let us understand with an example as to what is the requirement of an to register as an NPO. The step 1. First is it should have its primary social intent, and the primary social intent has to be checked upon by 3 criteria. One, which was 67% of, or there are 3 conditions, and if this one of the condition is met, so that is 1. Second is they are working in the activities, 16 listed activities. If they're working through them, they are eligible. Third, they are doing the work in the target segment. Now, once these eligibilities are fulfilled, let us move to the eligibility criteria of NPO. So social intent is formed, that social intent has been made, then we can see if that organization is in the nature of registration is a trust or a society or a Section 8 company. उनका 3 साल का ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड होना चाहिए. So their certificate, which can be proved from the certificate of incorporation or from their financial statements also. They should have 12A 12A registration. उनके पास valid ATG का registration होना चाहिए. Plus there are 2 more criteria which are in numbers. 1, उन entities ने 50 lakh का spending किया हो last financial year में towards the activities. So this is 1 more. And they have raised 10 lakh of funds. So there are this 6 to 7 criteria. If an entity is fulfilling them, they can go and get registered themselves on the BSE or NSE platform. Now, why we are doing this? What is the benefit out of it? Or so, like many of our clients or many of the people who are we may be auditors for them, or we may be working them as a trustee with them, or so in that we know there is always or usually a scarcity of funds these people or these NGOs have, and therefore when you are registered on BSE, NSE, it gives you more credibility, it gives you more transparency, and therefore raising funds can be of ease, right? So once this registration step 1 is done, then we can target of second step, which is registration 2, which is listing. The step number 2 is listing. Now, till the time we were discussing, it was purely registration part. Okay. Now we will be discussing the listing part of it. The registration part is NGO can register themselves and get their registered and stay there with the stock exchange. It annually registration का उनको renewal करना होता है, वो renewal they can do the renewal annually. Now thing is, after the time of renewal, they have to fulfill some disclosure, some compliance also. Like they have to give financials, or they have to give the social impact report, they have to comply with the LODR regulations. So these are some requirements. If an Section 8 company, as I mentioned, Section 8 company from Karnataka made a tick, उन्होंने सब कुछ tick कर लिया, and they were eligible, and they made an application to a stock exchange and get themselves registered. It is a pretty simple process. You have to go through their website. you can like upload the documents, send email to them, and if there are any queries, they'll come back, and then you can get registered. The registration certificate is being issued, and it is annually renewal process is there. Now, if the organization which we're talking about, that company or Section 8 companies get registered and it doesn't want to go for listing, that is absolutely fine. If they want to go for listing, they have to do certain more things. There is a process for listing. If they have to issue zero coupon, zero principal instrument on the social stock exchange, then there is certain process for it, and we'll discuss that certain process in a detailed way. Now, registration process, as far as registration process is concerned, I believe we have talked about it, and there are certain disclosures. So mind you here, as far as 40 or odd organizations have registered on both the stock exchanges currently, even though I am not listed, then their securities on the social stock exchange, they have to do the compliances. They have to do disclosures. It is not that they do the registration and automatic renewal will take place. It is not that. They have to do some disclosure, the compliances as well. We will talk about the compliances also at the later stage. Now, moving ahead with respect to the listing part of it. Okay. How to raise funds, where to raise funds, which stock exchange, or what is the platform, what is the instrument, what is the process, we will talk about in detail. Now, once the step 1 is completed, you are registered on the stock exchange. Now, moving ahead, step 2 is the listing process. There are certain eligibility criteria or norms, I would say, which needs to be fulfilled. Like zero coupon, zero principal, as we were discussing. So zero coupon, zero principal instrument is a instrument which will be used. Okay. It is a security. Okay. It doesn't need any repayment. It doesn't no interest or dividend is required to be paid. This ZCZP will be completely in demat form. So like equity shares or the securities which are issued in demat form, in the similar way, these securities will be issued in demat form, and therefore will have to have the issuer. So we call it issuer or we call it NPO. The NPO need to enter in tripartite agreement. 2 agreements will be entered, one with the CDSL, Central Depository Securities Limited, and NSDL. So these two with 2 depositories. One, there are 3 parties to this tripartite agreement. One would be the NPO itself, will be issuing this ZCHP and raising funds. Second would be the depository. So this depository, like many people must be aware, but for simplicity, they are similar to a bank which holds deposit or FD and issue a FD receipt. And this depository issues a demat statement or holds securities in demat form in a e-manner. And third party to this will be an RTA, which is a register and transfer agent. So this RTA will be playing role with respect to all the process with respect to demat. One, second, they will be playing a key role with respect to opening of escrow account, and they will be having authority to escrow account as well. So these are the third intermediary here. Like so, 2 agreements should be entered. One would be with CDSL, and second would be with NSDL. Now, why CDSL and NSDL both? So all the donors need to have their demat account in place. Okay, when they make application for this issue, and this ZCHP, which is zero coupon, zero principal, will be issued to them, it will be in demat form, and therefore they need demat accounts. What happens is they may have account and the DP may have like tie-up with CDSL or NSDL. Therefore, the NPO, which is an entity which is going for listing of their security, will have to enter into 2 tripartite agreements. This is one. So this can be done once this tripartite agreement, both the tripartite agreement is issued, one IC number is issued. So IC number stands for International Securities Identification Number. Like similarly for equity shares, there are specific numbers, number given to a specific equity share of any corporate. In the similar fashion, And ZCHP class will have an IC number. It will be unique international number and which will be used. Now, that is one. Second, the issue size. So what is the issue size? If there like for how much or minimum amount or maximum amount funds can be raised by an NPO. So previously it was 1 crore. The limit has been reduced to 50 lakh rupees right now. And the funds can be raised minimum of 50 lakh rupees and maximum of anything. There is no amount mentioned prescribed right now. Okay. As far as application size is concerned, so when an NPO is coming up with this issue of ZCZP और उनका size हो 1 crore रुपए का, so who can participate and what is the amount, minimum amount? So for example, in SME IPO, there is an application size of 1 lakh rupees. For main board IPO, the application size of 10 to 15,000 rupees. In a similar way, for ZCHP, the previously it was 2 lakh rupees the limit. Now it has been changed to 10,000 rupees. And these 2 to 3 steps are the welcoming steps from SEBI. They had taken public opinion on this. They had taken recommendations on it, and then their body, as the board meeting after the board meeting at SEBI and the committee at SEBI had decided to reduce 3 things. One, the issue size has been reduced from 1 crore to 50 lakh. Application size is reduced from 2 lakh to 10,000 rupees, and also retail investors can participate now. So which is an important part here now. So retail investors, which are public at large, can now participate in these issues. Third is the retail investors are not allowed, are allowed right now. Previously, only institutional investors were allowed. Now, third, when we are talking about investors, I'll tell you, currently, foreign investors are not allowed to participate in this issue. So funds which are in India are only allowed. NRI or foreign investors are not allowed right now. Okay. Now, as far as the subscription is concerned, if an organization is coming up with an issue size of 1 crore rupees, the minimum subscription amount should be 75%. Now, when we speak about 75%, it is 90% in case of main board IPO. In case of ZCZP, it is 75%. So if funds are raised like to the tune, or the bids are received to the tune of 1 crore 1 lakh, 1 crore 10 lakh rupees, there will be a pro rata allotment done, right? If the funds are received less than 75%, then the funds have to be returned back. They don't, like, the funds cannot be kept, they have to be returned back. There is a new provision in this, which is if the funds are raised in the percentage between 75 to 100%, say 80%, then in that case, the NPO has to mention in the fundraising document, which is the offer document, which is filed prior to the listing. They have to mention that what is the process of raising the balance funds. So if a or an NPO raise 80% only, 80% or issue is subscribed and 20% is not, then they have to mention either the governing body will give their funds, or maybe if they've got other unrestricted funds which can be used for it, or they can raise it from other sources. So they have to mention this manner of raising funds in the offer document. Right. Now, the other requirements or of the exchanges. So what are the other requirements of issuing the securities? And these are normal thing. Once an NPO, so I believe NPOs are not currently required to do many compliances, but once these compliances, or once they go through this process, trust me, they'll be aware of this, and then they can do the process, and it will be of benefit to them. Reason being, they are more credible. They have a team now who has got experience. So this sound maybe some complicated thing, but it is not. Absolutely not. First time is the only thing. Now, as we mentioned, the securities and demat form, there has to be tripartite agreement. IC number will be allotted. Then for the process of listing, so when you do this listing, you have to do this either on BSE or NSE, SSE, or on both. So when you do this listing, you have to enter into an agreement with the stock exchange, respective stock exchange, which is the listing agreement, and you have to comply by that. So that is a requirement. Also, when we go for step 2, we have to have registration, step 1 with us. Only then we can go for listing. So these are the eligibility criteria for now. So moving ahead with respect to advantages, what are the advantages, why this is being done? As I mentioned, transparency is a very key role here. It will play a very key role in this process, whereby there is a stock exchange who is looking after the compliances. There is a donor who is donating the money for the respective project, and there is NPO at the other hand, which has to do all the compliances. They have to do the impact measurement, and they have to submit the impact measurement report to the stock exchange, which will be available to for public at large, which they can see. And there is completely transparency in this. Plus, they have a lot of credibility. Now, if you see, usually what happens is when an NGO or an NPO raise funds, they raise it funds from their district or the people they know or their governing body knows. They do in this fashion. But now, because of this platform, you can raise funds across the length and breadth of the country. And when I'm telling this, an NGO which is based out of Karnataka or Bangalore, or for that matter, Madhya Pradesh, a person from Delhi or Gujarat can also participate, which is very important because this information is available on the website of the NPO, on the website of the stock exchange. And as in when the awareness will come and people will be more aware, and once they go through these documents, fundraising document, which is similar to a prospectus, which have everything, all the information, and we'll be discussing on the fundraising document, what is it, what are the contents of it. So the donors have got a lot of information and they can have access of it, they can go through it, and if they feel fine, they want to donate, they can donate through it. So the investor limits or the bar of geographical bar has been removed by this platform, right? Next, if we see, and like when we talk about synergy, there are many like donors. Like a person may want to donate, if I may donate one, he wants to donate for malnutrition, or someone wants to donate for education sector, someone wants to donate for livelihood. So n number of sectors are there, and they can select the NPOs on the which are coming for listing, and accordingly they can donate the funds. So what is the aim? What a donor want to invest? I can see that NPO, and accordingly I can make the donation. So that is one of the advantage here. As I mentioned, you get more credibility. You are having the important part here is the minimum registration and listing cost. So when you do registration or listing, BSE or NSE, they charge a nominal fee of 25,000 or 25,000 rupees plus taxes, and you can list, and it's an annual listing fees. So the other intermediaries like RTA or the depositories, they also charge a minimum fee, and therefore the process or the cost involved in this, no doubt process must be slightly different, but the cost involved is less, but you get you are visible to India at large, so which is an important point here, right? And it is a new way of raising capital, and even the new avenues like social development bond or social venture fund are coming up. So one NGOs or NPOs can plan that as well. So these are the important advantages why an NGO or an NPO should go for listing. Now moving towards the listing process and how is the process, what has to be done. Let us speak about that. Now, when we talk about this process, there are ideally 4 to 5 intermediaries involved in the process. One being the stock exchange. Second is the depository. for which we will be having the tripartite agreement, and they'll hold the securities. So ZCZP security. So broadly, what will be happening is for a Section 8 company, for example, if a Section 8 company is registered and they're coming for listing, and their issue size is 1 crore rupees, what the process would be, they have to open an escrow account, okay, a bank account, specific bank account with any bank, okay, and which is other than their normal banking account. So if they have account with some HDFC bank, and they may have an escrow account, which the control of this escrow account will be with the RTA. So the funds will be collected in that escrow account. If the funds are less than 75%, it will be refunded from there itself. If the funds are more than 75 to 100% or more than 75%, it will be a successful issue. And then the funds, after deductions of the charges or so, they'll be transferred to the normal bank account. Often one more bank account will be opened in which funds will be utilized. So that through that account, funds will be utilized. So if funds will be utilized, it will be a normal current account which is in the process. Funds will be transferred from the escrow account to the normal account, and then utilization can be done. So the project, if the project size is of say 10 months, and they can utilize these funds over the period of this 10 months. And once the funds are completed and the project is completed, the ZCHP instrument will be extinguished. So there will be no repayment at the end. That ZCHP instrument will be extinguished from the demat account of the donors. This is the process. So therefore, an escrow account should be opened. Third, as we discussed, is a registered transfer agent, RTA, which will be helping for demat process as well as the escrow account functioning. Statutory auditor, because they'll be giving some certifications during this process, like if the entity has spent more than 3 lakh rupees, if they have raised more than 10 lakh rupees, or some other certification. So statutory auditor would be required. Even 3 years of financials have to mention in the fundraising document. So, and there may be an advisor to the issue or not. So these are the intermediaries which are involved in the process. Now, I would say, friends, this is the most, or colleagues, this is the most important slide in our presentation, which is with respect to listing. And we can step by step, we'll go through the process and what are the processes done at each step. So when we speak about listing process, this NPO, once registered and step 1 is done, so once they are moving towards step 2, they have to first go through the things like they have spent, like what is the preliminary study, how their operations are, what is the project for which this ZCP is issued. So this ZCP is issued for a specific project. So they have to identify that project, right? And preliminary study has to be done. Once that is done, appoint the intermediaries like RTA or the bank. Simultaneously, the process of like tripartite agreement, all these things can be started off. Then registration, once the registration is done, which is the step 1, they have to either through a in-house or through a advisor, they have to do the due diligence. So now, and prepare this fundraising document. So now, what exactly is the fundraising document? It's similar to an offer document whereby objects of the issue, what is the entity, what is the background, what are the projects they have handled so far, who are the members, who is the governing body, what is their background, and what are the projects handled, what are the financials of the company, all these details. Also litigation section. There are like approximately 28 to 29 chapters in a fundraising document. Usually it may be slightly like some may club or something, but it is usually 29 chapters. So this document has to be prepared, and this document is similar to a prospectus, and it's an offer document which is signed by the trustees or in a case of a trust, or directors in case of a Section 8 company, and then it is being filed. There are two forms of it. One is draft FRD, which is draft fundraising document, and one is final FRD. So once the intermediaries are appointed, the due diligence is completed, and the issue is clear. What is the issue? What is the size of the issue? If it is clear, then the entity may start working on the draft FRD. Once the FRD is finalized, it's closed, then they may file with this fundraising document with the stock exchange. So this is the process basically. The stock exchange will be going through the document. The day on which this draft FRD is filed with the stock exchange, it will be on their website, on the stock exchange website, and as well as the NPO's website. It will be held on that website for 21 days for public comment. And during this 21 days, so from the day of filing the draft FRD, stock exchange will review it, will give their comments or observations within 30 days. Simultaneously, both the process are done simultaneously. So 21 days for public comments as well as the 30 days process. Once the observations or queries are given by stock exchange and satisfactory replies are given, then they will give an in-principle approval. Usually this in-principle approval is there for 6 months. Now is a critical time when this NGOs or the NPOs which have been received this in-principle approval, they have got this 6 months of window period whereby they can strategize. So like what will be the issue size, what will be the target donors, because this is an important period because the issue period is minimum 3 days, maximum of 10 days, and another extension of 10 days. That means minimum period of 3 days and maximum is 20 days with extension, including extension. So if I have to tell an NPO that you have to collect 1 crore rupees in 2 months, they may. When I have to tell them, when I ask them that you have to collect it in just 5 days in this specific 5 days period or 3 days period, it may become difficult for some. So that's the reason during this period, you have to do strategies. Like if you are in talks with the specific donors, you can ask them to open demat accounts, keep them ready, keep them, get their soft commitments as well. During this period, the funds can be planned, like how the funds will be coming in, what are the donors, of commitment has been taken. So all this planning can be done in this strategy or in this period, which is strategy. Okay. So once the strategy is in place, then you can file final FRD with the stock exchange and open the issue. Issue will be for 3 days to 20 days. And during this, funds will be received. Daily RECO or daily movement can be looked upon. So right now the funds, so in the IPO, if you see in the IPO, it is SBA process, application supported by blocked amount. So you log in through your net banking account, you click through an IPO and you say you have to apply for it and you block the amount. So funds are in your amount is blocked. If it is allotted, then your funds have been deducted. So currently that process is not followed here. Reason being, one, the cost part of it. Because since an NPO, a cost is involved for this process. Syndicate members have to be appointed and there are other cost parameters. So that's the reason SEBI have right now kept it simple that an escrow bank account will be opened. Whatever funds you have to transfer, fund details, the bank account details, the escrow account details will be explained in the, it will be mentioned in the final FRD. The investors or the donors have to transfer the funds to make an application and transfer the funds to the escrow account. So this is the current process right now. It may automate in future, but right now this is the process. So daily management as to how much funds have been received. For example, if a 1 crore issue is open and the time frame is 4 days, then daily checking if the first day 20 lakh rupees is received, second day 30 lakh rupees is received, that means 50 lakh rupees has been received. The third and fourth day being in this case will be crucial because they have to breach the mark of 75%, and like if it raise them more than 100%, then we're good to go. So, or else at times, if it is less than 75%, it may affect the credibility of the NPO as well, because the issue will fail and they have to refund the money. So that's the reason this strategy period is important. And when the issue period is open, they have to track it simultaneously. So once the issue is closed, say 4 days, they have received 1 crore 5 lakh rupees, 1 crore was the issue size, and in 4 days they have received 1 crore 5 lakh, they're good to go. 1 crore 5 लाख रुपया वो ओवर सब्सक्राइब हुआ है, इसलिए वो प्रो डाटा बेसिस पे अलॉटमेंट कर देंगे. नाउ इशू क्लोज होगा 2 से 3 दिनों के अंदर. आरटीए रिको रिकंसिलेशन बनाएगा, उनको कुछ चेक्स आते हैं, कभी कुछ फंड आते हैं, वो सब कुछ देख लेंगे. और देन वंस दैट इज डन, हो सकता है कि किसी एक एप्लीकेशन में जिन्होंने 1 लाख के लिए एप्लीकेशन किया होगा वो इनकरेक्ट फाइल कर दिया होगा, इनकरेक्ट कुछ होगा, सो इट विल बी रिजेक्टेड. सो 1 crore 4 lakh हैज बीन रिसीव्ड द वैलिड एप्लीकेशंस. So pro rata allotment will be done. Z380 will be allotted. The list of allottees will be finalized, and Z380 will be allotted to the demat account. After that, 1 crore 4 lakh rupees, 4 lakh rupees will be refunded. 1 crore will be kept, and 1 crore will be after deducting some expenses or जो भी expenses है. For example, RT has got their fees or depositors has got their fees. After that, that funds will be transferred, and then the NPO can utilize the funds. So this is the process. So securities have been allotted, funds have been transferred, and simultaneously the NPO will write an listing application to the stock exchange that please please get our securities listed on the stock exchange. Usually the face value of the security is 1 rupees. So that means 1 crore ZCZP will be allotted, and this will be created in the demat account of the donors. Say project size is of 10 months. After 10 months, once the project is completed, the Z380, a certificate will be filed with the stock exchange by the NPO कि हम ये project complete हो चुका है. Please extinguish these securities. The CDC and NHL will extinguish the securities. जो donor है उनके account में से वो securities extinguish हो जाएंगे, खत्म हो जाएंगे. And that is the process basically. Now moving ahead, in detail when we speak what is the plan, we may have discussed majority of the topics in this slide, but now we can understand slide by slide. So pre-issue क्या होता है कि आपको registration, you have to do registration, you have to do if there are any non-compliances or if the financials are not ready. For example, we are in the month of January 24 and an NGO or NPO is planning to get registered themselves in the month of April, then they should have this audited financials of last 3 years in place. And in that case, financial year 23-24 needs to be ready. Even if they are planning to file an application in the month of April or May, if they get registration in the month of April, and if they want to go for listing or file FRD in the month of May, then 23 financial year 23-24 का audited financials होना जरूरी है, और वो आपके फंड रेजिंग डॉक्यूमेंट का पार्ट बनेगा, राइट. देन व्हेन वी से यहाँ पे कुछ कंप्लायंसेस भी आते हैं, राइट. सो लाइक एंड कंपनी सेक्रेटरी और कंप्लायंस ऑफिसर, if we go by the regulations and section 8 company, for a section 8 company when issue these securities, it becomes a listed entity. And when it becomes a listed entity, every listed entity should have a compliance officer as per regulation 5 of LODR. So by that, but right now maybe some relaxations have been given, and company secretary can be a third party right now. So qualified company secretary can be a third party right now. So right now there is no, it is the current situation in the practical way. Now, as far as compliance officer is concerned, a compliance officer would be a person who will be nominated as a person who will be doing the respective disclosure requirements of LODR or so. So they are designated. So some changes are done for this structure. So that's the reason I have mentioned that you have to review the group structure or the corporate structure. Size of issue size is decided, objects are decided. Now there is an important part here. When we file FRD, FRD में ऑडिटर का नाम होता है, स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर का नाम होता है, उनके बैंकर्स का नाम होता है, उनके सारे डायरेक्टर्स का या फिर उनके ट्रस्टीज का नाम होता है, गवर्निंग बॉडी का नाम होता है, कंपनी सेक्रेटरी का नाम होता है, RTA रजिस्ट्रार एंड ट्रांसफर एजेंट का नाम होता है. So when you file this, you have to take consent from them. Yes, we are using your name and we'll be filing. So we need this consent from you, and it is a recent written document. So आपको उनसे written permission लेना है, and then you can mention like file this. So this is a prerequisite here. Also, some certificates or litigate for when we talk about chapters, what is the fundraising document and what are the chapters or content of it. We'll discuss on litigation and some more consent or undertakings over there. Right. Website needs to be updated. So as I mentioned, that when we file fundraising document, it has to be there on your website for 21 days. Along with it, like a separate section has to be prepared, like a listed company is having like investors section. So in which there'll be three things. One, financials. Okay. Second, in which PDFs can be attached. Second would be the draft FRD section, and third would be final FRD, in which this PDF of draft FRD is available. Fourth section would be some policies. So at times there are risk management policy or post-show policies or some policies that are required to be uploaded. So this, as per the norms, as per the listing norms. So this policy should be there. So therefore, website updation should be there. The management or the people who are there in the management, all the details should be properly there on the website of the NPO who is going for issuance of this security. Now, right now, scores authentication, which is like for a listed entity, when a listed entity is going for listing, scores authentication is a platform on which investor can do their complaints, and you have to give this on a quarterly basis to the stock exchange. So right now, this compliance is not mentioned, so it is yet to be, or maybe may come in future right now. As we discussed, due diligence has to be done, and the chapters have to be prepared. For that, data has to be there, and then chapters have to prepare, and then fundraising document, once reviewed by the team, has to be signed off and then filed with the stock exchange. Now, this fundraising document is an important and critical document. Why? So this fundraising document, when we speak, this is in compliance with the listing agreement, the ICDR regulations, ICDR being issue of capital and disclosure requirements. So whenever any security is issued, there have to be certain like prerequisite information has to be given, and that has been mentioned. So yeah, the NPO has to follow that process, has to be in compliance. They have to go pura format. It is not a fixed format. They have given a brief content of it that this has to be minimum mentioned over there. So all this content has to be mentioned, and this should be as per ICDR regulations. So when we say what is the FRD in detail, there are some chapters which I mentioned. There are almost 29 chapters, and this fundraising document is break into 29 chapters. We'll discuss on that in detail. We have already discussed on the depositories, right? Well, who are the depositories? CDSL, NSL are the depositories. Banker, who will open the escrow account, RTA, or the stock exchange, or the statutory auditor from which you have to take certificates and the financial statements. Okay. Issue process, more or less, we have discussed. We can go through this. So, like, registration should be there. IC number has to be taken. Escrow account has to be there, so that proceeds can be parked over there, and then it is transferred to the utilization account. Fundraising document is filed with the stock exchange. They raise observations or queries. We have to reply them and then get the final fundraising approval, and that approval is valid for 6 months. So these are the some list. And during the process of listing, as I mentioned, because the issue period is 3 days to 20 days with extension, we have to be careful, and we have to do a meticulous planning as to who are the targeted donors and who will be participant again. So as to mention some more few things here, right now, ATG is not given deduction under ATG for participation or for contribution as a donation to ZCHP is not allowed. It has been in discussion and there have been some progress made, and sooner or later and CBDT will come up with a notification for ATG deduction. So it is expected. That is one. Second, foreign is not allowed right now. Third, when we speak about ATG, the other part is CSR. So if a corporate gives as a donation to the ZCHP securities, will it be formed as a CSR expenditure? The answer is no currently. Again, the talks at Ministry of Corporate Affairs or Finance Ministry levels are being done, and it may come in future. But ATG deduction will be coming sooner or later. That is expected. Right. Then listing process, as you mentioned, that once the funds are received and it is more than 75%, listing can be done. So allotted list can be finalized. The ZCHP securities will be dematted on their demat accounts, respective demat accounts. Listing application will be done to the stock exchange. This process goes simultaneously, and then once the listing is done, we can go ahead. We utilize the funds and we can work on the social development of the goal, which is the main objective here. Now, as we discussed timeline, so minimum timeline is 3 days, 3 trading days, and maximum is 10 days. If a MPO writes for an extension, it will be allowed for more 10 days. So 3 days and 20 days is the minimum and maximum period. Now, what are the attributes or features as we discussed is it has no coupon, it has no principal, redemption date or maturity date. There is no redemption date. And as far as maturity date is concerned, it is linked, or life of the ZCHP instrument is linked to the life of the project. Once that is completed and the certificate of completion is being filed to the stock exchange, it will extinguish from the demat account of the donors. It will stay with them till that time and then it will extinguish. Now, this is one more important topic which we have, which is contents of the fundraising document. Okay. And what is the contents of fundraising document? So I would suggest if we can have a glance and then we can discuss in detail. Yes. So as far as fundraising document is concerned, as I mentioned, there are some 29 chapters and how they are divided. So when we talk about the enterprise or the NPO, all the information about it, like when it has been incorporated, addresses, the locations, in which states it is actively participating, like which regulations are applicable to it. It may be income tax, it may be the other regulations as well. It may or may not have GST certificate or just GST registration, the other registrations as well. Then all the details have to mention. The details of their management, who is the management team or who is the governing body, their background, and a brief profile of them. Then what was their activities done in the past? So we know, as we know, that the period is 3 years. So minimum track record of 3 years is required. So you must have done activities in the past. So we have to list that project. By this, seeing the donors, so the objective of this fundraising document is basically the offer document will be filed. The donors can look at it, can go through the document, understand the organization, what is the aim, what is the objective, how are the numbers, it has been performed previously, and then make an informed decision if they have to donate or not. So this is the purpose of this fundraising document. Financial information like financial statements will be mentioned, related party transactions have to mention for 3 years. Then what is the object? For example, if you are saying livelihood, and or if you are saying we'll be giving a training to some people, so we have to mention if we are giving training to 500 people, what will be the training, what will be the cost, So all these details have to be mentioned over there, right? Then will be the target segment. So what are the target segment for which we are working, which district or which state or which that project has to be defined thoroughly, right? So these are the information. Then the other chapters are like risk factors. Now, what is risk factors? It is usually risk factors are divided into two parts: internal risk factors or external risk factors. So, for example, I may have an internal risk factor like so ZCZP is in addition to the fund. So just to give an clarity, if a fund is operational, if a trust is an operational, and if they are raising every year or average 20 crore rupees every year or say 5 crore rupees every year, they may raise additionally some amount or 1 crore, 2 crore, whatever amount they think feasible through ZCZP. That is in addition to what they are raising in during the normal course. Okay. So there may be a chance risk factor whereby it will be mentioned if we are raising less funds or there are scarcity of funds, our operations will be hit. So what is the risk factor? That they are raising less funds. That is the internal risk factor. What is the mitigation plan? They try to the mitigation plan for these risk factors have to mention. If I have to give an extra example of external risk factor, then it may be like the rules may change. If the rules or the act or how the funds or CSR rules have been changed, then the NPO will have like it may have impact of it. And what is the mitigation plan? So all this I have to mention. Now litigation is an important chapter here. So when we say outstanding litigation and material development, this is an important chapter. So for a Section 8 company, all the civil and criminal matters, right? Like starting from Supreme Court, High Courts or District Courts, all the courts are covered, all the SST, all this. So all the litigation matter, be it civil or criminal, by and against. If the NPO has done it against someone or someone has done against the NPO or the board of directors or criminal matters for again. So this is in the case of Section 8 company. And when we talk about trust, it may be the governing body. So that has to be disclosed over there. And this is the usual thing which is being done for IPOs as well. In the similar way, government approvals. What are the government approvals? Specific government approvals are required, like Shop Act is required, or income tax registration is required, or GST is required, or all the types of government approvals are required. You have to mention that. And what is the status of it? The other processes are like who are the RTA, who are the other intermediaries, their details, what is the issue process, what will the size of the issue instrument regarding the details about the instrument, how is the payment have to be done, all this part, what are the SEBI regulations, what are the articles of associations and declarations, like by the NPO that they have signed off the concerned person or the governing body or the board of directors have to mention that they have given this information which is fair and true and correct. So they have to give this declaration. So these are the various chapters. This is usually a chapter ranging between 150 to 175 pages. IPO prospectus DRHP is a higher version, but this is almost 150 to 175 page document, right? Now, moving ahead to some important aspects, we know this. So one impact answer, one important question here is that if this instrument is tradable, answer is no. This ZCP are not tradable in the market. There is no trading being done. It doesn't have any price. It is purely a donation. It will be there in the demat account of the donor, and once the project is complete, it will be extinguished. There is no secondary market for it. It may be transferred. Say, for example, if the donor dies also, it may be transferred to the legal heir, but there is no secondary market. The other aspects which we have already discussed, like issue size is 50 lakh rupees, 10,000 is the minimum subscription amount, or 75% is the minimum subscription, above 100% is over subscription, and we can do pro rata allotment. All the investors, including retail investors, is now allowed. Foreign investors are not currently allowed. Okay, this ZCP will be issued in dematerialized form, and this, like, it will have no coupon or no principal, right? it is only for social development. So the steps are like, once the listing is done, you have access of funds, the NPO has access of funds, they can utilize for social development, they can again come and raise the funds. An NPO can raise funds for a different project in number of times. So there is no bar on that. They can do this as a continuous process. Right now, maybe they will have to hunt for investors, because like a lot of awareness is not available in the market right now, or to the public at large. But slowly and steadily, the goal is that it will be an automatic process whereby projects or fundraising document will be listed, and the investors or donors can see and donate. And the NPO as an organization will take these funds, do the project, do the reporting, do the renewal of their registration, and everything will be transparent. And this will be a continuous process of raising funds. Now, as we have gone through the process of listing and the registration part, usually some few FAQs which are usual and to us, I'll answer those. So what is the cumbersome process? Like, what is the compliance part? Right now, for example, if a listed entity, main board listed entity, they have to give the results, annual financial results, on a quarterly basis, which we talk about like limited review. For NGOs, it will be within a period of 60 days. So right now they are preparing maybe till the month of September or so. But right now, for once they're listed, they have to do it a bit earlier. Then some other like documents which they need to file is annual impact report. This they have to file even if they are not listed, but only registered. So this is important. Renewal of registration should be done if you have to be continued to be registered on the platform, on the NSE or BAC platform. If you have to go for utilization of funds, so when we say utilization of funds, just a second. So when we say utilization funds, what funds have you raised, and what funds you have to how you have been used that fund. So you have to give that explanation, and if there are any deviation, you have to give explanation for it. And one more important is disclosure, which is event-based disclosure. So what is this? So when you say for example, if there is a board of directors, section and company, or a governing body, and if a person, director, resigns and someone else is appointed in his place, so you have to write this within the 24 hours to the stock exchange. It is a portal. You have to go, and in a like frequent of seconds, you have to file that. It is being filed. It is easy process. That this person has been resigned, and the other person, or this has been resigned. So this information has to be given. It has to be given timely. So that is some event-based disclosures. So these are some additional compliances. I would say maybe in the start, this may look cumbersome, the process may look cumbersome, but once you have gone through it, once you know the process, it will be for the first time, like it may feel a bit cumbersome, but rest be assured that it will be routine practice. The team of the NPO will be habitual to this process. So once this is done, we can look upon like this is a good thing to start, and social capital will be available to all the NPOs at large. So yes, now what we can do is we can have a Q&A session. I could see some question answers in the and there are many questions with respect to social audit or social auditors or their functioning. Let us stick to the process of registration and listing of securities or ZCHP. So let us answer those queries. Okay.
Thanks, Vishal. I guess it was really a nice and an engaging session today, and a very detailed walkthrough on the whole process of registration and listing. I think I've learned a lot on this. I'm going to just pick up a question. So me and Aman are going to be the persons who are going to ask you the questions that we've got from our participants today. And before I take up the questions with you, Vishal, I just like to mention to all our participants one thing, because we've got some questions around, whether this program will be visible again or the presentation will be available or not. So just to answer that question, this will be on the ICAI YouTube channel also, and will also the link of the program will also be on the ICAI website. So you guys can definitely go back and see the session or share it with your friends who may not have attended today, as an example. So that's the basic gist. And coming back to some of the questions, Vishal, that we have here.
Yeah.
Some questions which we received, I think they were prior to you started the detailed presentations. So I'm sure those people who had raised those questions around, what is ZCZP and all of that, I think those are answered. So I'm not going to pick those questions. What Aman and I are going to pick up are really the questions that I'm sure we also want answers to. So one interesting question that I got here was, does running an old age home also really get qualified under the eligibility criterias? And because you listed some, but it did not have something around it. So how do people identify which of the criterias are important for listing?
Yes. So when we see does running a old age home would be covered, I may go back to the slide where 16 list is being listed, and we can look upon this. So if the old age home may be for healthcare or for their malnutrition or for their hunger or for poverty, uh, so or for if those are migrants, it may be covered in this. So we have to specifically look as to old age. Maybe if it is for the like those, the old age homes is purely for the old people only, then maybe it is not listed over here. But so as to a specific answer to this, I believe it will not be, because old age clearly is not mentioned right now.
Thanks, Vishal. Aman, you want to take the next question?
Yeah. So Vishal, there's a question regarding how to identify whether a social enterprise targets an underserved or a lesser privileged population, or a lower performance in development priority. So are there any quantitative factors that we can look at to determine that?
Yes. So right now, if we say there is no given parameters right now, as mentioned, it is clearly mentioned by not given by the SEBI or NSE or BSE right now, and these are the bodies right now which are working for this. There is no circular on this. So right now, we have to look upon whatever is given by the central government or state government, and accordingly we can work upon, because they have defined in this when we see this query is coming from here. So when we see that if they're less privileged or undeserved, uh, and they are in the low performance or priority sector of central government and state government, that will be covered. And I believe as an NPO, if they are in working and towards this domain or towards this aim, they must be aware which are the less privileged segment, and they can accordingly make decisions. But there is no written guidelines for it right now.
Okay.
Vishal, the next question that I have is, there's somebody who's asked that as a retailer, you've said that retailers can actually invest in it. So when they really are given an option to invest, will that be seen through their normal demat account, like how you go and trade? That's how you can go and invest into a ZCZP, or how does that work? Any idea on that? I know it's a little the other side of the table question, but just
No. So as you mentioned, the retail investors. So इसमें क्या होता है? I'll tell you. For example, if you are using YouTube, okay, and it may happen that you get an advertisement of Keto or some other platform, crowdfunding platform, and you may click on the donate button, and then you may go through the process and donate funds. Similarly, uh, a person who may be doing job, or maybe in service, or maybe a businessman also, uh, if he wants to invest, or like for him it's a donation actually. So what he can do is, so when we speak retail investor, This is a typical definition under SEBI regulations. But when we speak about this ZCZP, it is donation and not investment, because they're not getting
Return back.
return out of it, but they are getting only social return. Okay. So they can go through this platform. If I am a donor, say for example, if I am a person, any fundraising document has been filed and it will be open, say for example, in the period of 25th of January to 31st of January. And for example, if it's focused on malnutrition, what I will do is, I have a Demat account. Yes, I have to minimum donate more than 10,000. Okay. Third, the offer period is from 25th of January to 31st of January. So what I'll do is, during that period, I'll transfer funds from my bank account to the escrow account, which will mention the final fundraising document. And then, say for example, I have transferred 12,000. So I had made a mind that I'll be transferring 1,000 per month, that is 12,000 in totality. 12,000 will be transferred to that account. Okay. Because minimum amount is 10,000. Anything about 10,000 is fine. It may be 10,000, 1 rupee also. Okay. So I'll transfer the funds to that account. Okay. I'll receive ZCZP security. So when I make the application, in that application, I have to mention DOID and DPID. DPID and client ID. What is this DPID? Is depository participant ID and the client ID. So I have to mention my Demat account, this, and give the application to the RTA. This RTA will, on allotment, will issue securities to the tune of 12,000 securities of ZCZP of face value 1 each in my Demat account. And for example, this project is for 6 months or say 4 months. So this ZCZP securities, 12,000 ZCZP securities will be credited in my account for this 6 months. After the 6 months have been done, so certificate is then filed with the stock exchange, this ZCZP will be diminished or will be extinguished from the account. So this is the donation which I've done as a 12,000 to that organization for that good cause. And in that return, the NPO will file impact report, everything which I can go through. I can understand how much impact has been done, how many people have been served by this. This will be done. This is the process for retail investor and the other investors also.
So Vishal, the next question is from an NPO registration point of view.
Sorry?
So it's from an NPO registration point of view. So can an NPO register by itself, or do they need to go through an external agency? If it has to go through an external agency, who are these agencies, and how does one go through choosing the RTA?
Okay. So I'll divide the question in 2 parts. One, registration. Now, registration, for the part of registration can be done by an NPO suo motu on their own. Okay. What they have to do is, there are 2 stock exchanges. The NPO has to decide on them or then themselves. Like if they have to file the offer document on only one stock exchange or both or either of which, right? Registration part. So they have to do registration. उनको registration NSE पे करना है, BSE पे करना है, उनको decide करना है. So, for example, if they have decided to do on a stock exchange, go through their website, NSE, SSE or BSE, SSE. If you search, you'll find these links. You can go through that website. There is a registration tab. You can understand the process. The checklist is given over there. You can prepare the documents accordingly, the cover letter also, and then you can upload those documents as well as email them. Once that documents have been received by the NSE or BSE, they can work upon it. If there are queries, they will ask you for more information, or else they will give you a registration certificate. This can be done suo motu. There is no mandatory requirement as to you have to appoint or do this process through someone else or not. It is your choice which NPO has to do. Now, if there are any list of other intermediaries involved or not, right now there is no such list involved who are the advisors also, but there are people who are working in this domain. Now, answer to the third question, which is RTA. So there are n number of registered and transfer agents. So RTA is an intermediary, SEBI intermediaries. So there are many intermediaries in the market, like a merchant banker, depository, clearing member, depository participant, registered and transfer agent. Similarly, RTA is an intermediary of a SEBI. So if you just find list of RTA or list of are registered travel agent in SEBI, in India registered with SEBI, you'll find the list, and then you can get in touch with them. Okay.
So, Aman, the next question is very interesting because, Vishal, the next question is really interesting because here they want to know that you said that the minimum subscription for the ZCZP is 75%, right? Now, so if the question is that if the project wanted to raise, say, 50 crores and they got 48 crores, so it's above 75%, but then what happens to the balance 2 crores? The project will go ahead, or how will that work?
Okay. So to the answer, yes, the project or the issue will be a successful issue, and it will go ahead. Now, what will be done with the balance 2 crore? For now, when we, as I mentioned, there'll be two FRD here, draft FRD and final FRD. So you have to mention in this fundraising document. So if the funds are received to the tune of 75 to 100%, say 80%, 90%, 95%, anywhere, how do you raise? Or you have to mention the manner of raising capital. So this is the exact language by the in the regulations. So you have to mention that for example, if you have got unrestricted other funds or ZCZP for that project is one source. You can raise funds through your normal source also. So you can mention that if there is any shortfall, we'll be raising these funds through other fundraising or maybe through our internal accruals or maybe through governing body may subscribe to the unsubscribed portion or there can be reasons. So you have to mention this reason and for example, an NPO has mentioned that it will get it from the people, from the investors in the next 3 months or so. There is no specific timeline given, but I will get it from the donors, other donors. So 48 has been raised in the next few months or so, whatever is the timeline fixed in the offer document, you have to mention and you have to get those 2 crores from the people and then complete the project.
So Vishal, the next question is from the point of view of a social auditor. Currently, the social auditors aren't able to certify the impact report. So do you see this happening in the future where they will be able to certify documents, or will it be mandatory for certain social enterprises?
Aman, so as I mentioned in the start, social auditor is a different aspect. Like let us stick to the process of registration and the listing of ZCLP.
Correct.
Now they are working social auditor as far as limited information or limit what information I can give is the social auditor will be working on the social impact report right now, and that is the information. So let us.
Yeah.
So, Vishal, I think I have a question here where somebody said, what is the benefit of registering on the portal but not listing? So, as you said at the start, an NPO can register but may decide not to list. So, why would somebody do that?
Yes.
Or
So
what's the benefit?
I'll tell you. So here what happens is, why would someone do that? One, right now, there are thousands and thousands of NGOs in India, NPOs in India, maybe in the form of Section 8 company or a trust or a society, right? There are thousands maybe in the number, but when you are registered with the stock exchange, there are, when we see it, there are only 42 right now, like including both the stock exchange, BSE and NSE. So and you can always mention in your documents or in like it is always there, we are registered with the stock exchange. And when you do that, your first set of things which you have done is that you have given the you have cleared the eligibility criteria to get them registered. You are registered on that. That is one. Second, after registrations, you have to do some certain compliances as per regulations. So you have to do that, and when you seek renewal, you have to be compliant. That means as an entity, even if you're not issuing securities and getting listed, but even if you're doing the compliance part, you are you're one step ahead from the other people because you're registered as well as you are doing the compliance and you're transparent. So that is gives more credibility to an NGO. So when you go to donors, you can always say that we are compliant and we are registered with the BSE NSE and we are doing the compliances as well. which are there in the domain, and therefore we have received renewal also. So this is something additional thing. So it may help the NPOs for raising funds or show that they are more credible. Listing, yes, it is again the next step, but this will again, registration will also help.
Vishal, I have a couple of questions. The first is, can the listed NPO raise funds without going through the SSE? And a follow-up to that was also that how many times can an NPO raise the funds? Is it rupees 50 lakhs every time, or what is the frequency that it can raise funds in?
Aman, can you please come again on the first part of it?
The question was, can the listed NPO raise funds without going through the SSE?
Okay, so I'll take the second one, which is an easier one, and then more clarification will be given on the first part. So when we talk about second, an NPO, I'll give an example on this. So an NPO is working in 3 states, for example, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan, for example. Okay, or so it may happen for the first time of listing, they have issued securities and covered a project in a specific district in Ahmednagar or Pune or any specific district. Second time, maybe after 4 months or after 6 months, so there is no timeline given, minimum maximum. So they can come again with an project, say maybe in the state, in the district of Bhopal, and again they may come up for listing over there. They may again they may come with a say in the place of Junjunu in Rajasthan. So it is a continuous process. There is no minimum or maximum requirements. Yes, every time you come up with the issue, the minimum size is 50 lakh rupees. It is irrespective of number of issues. Every time you come, it is minimum 50 lakh rupees. Now coming to the first part of it. So if an NPO is working, as you mentioned, continuing with the example, is working in 3 states, they come up with an issue of Z8P for the state of Maharashtra for the project of, say, Parbhani or Gadchiroli, which is maybe a slightly backward area, or so maybe Gondia for that matter. So if they are coming for that district and they are doing their projects in the state of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh as well, these funds which are raised from Z8P can be utilized for the place of Gondia for the project, and in addition to this, they can simultaneously raise funds. Like the operations will continue as it is. Only this additional fundraising will be done by social stock exchange. So normal process can be done. They can raise funds for their existing projects in Rajasthan or other places of Maharashtra or Madhya Pradesh. For specific project of that Gondia, they have raised funds through the Z8. That's it. They can do simultaneous funding. I believe some clarity is brought here.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think, Vishal, just for a quick clarification, just a follow up on same question. So which means that the same NPO can have multiple ZCP at the same time for different projects.
Yes, it can have. The project should be different, or the project can be an extension also. There is no bar on it. It can be multiple rounds of funding. So like a company which is listed for equity, which can do IPO, foreign FPO, and rights issue or preferential issue. In the similar way, here an entity can do multiple rounds of ZCP issue. Only thing is you have to fulfill the criteria that you are registered at the time of listing and you are doing minimum 50 lakh rupees of amount every time the issue is subscribed minimum 50%. This has to be followed every time. That is the normal process.
So I just had a question here wherein somebody said that if you have a trust, right, and that trust is you have non-resident Indians or maybe expats who are part of the trust. So are they still eligible for registration?
You mentioned that expats or the NRIs are members of that trust, right?
Yeah.
So if we see the eligibility criteria, their trust, maybe a Section 8 company or a trust under Indian Trust Act or a society, they're eligible. Their members are non-resident, that is not an issue. the investors or the donors who come at the time of listing or when the issue is open, at that point in time, only at that point in time, foreign investors are not allowed. So this is the rule. If it is registered in India, the NPO is valid and ticks all the boxes which are valid for eligibility criteria, they can go ahead with the registration on the listing part. Only thing is when an investor, say for example, if 100 applications are received and 99 applications are from Indian or institutionals in India or corporates, they will be given securities. If one application is from an NRI, it will be rejected.
And another question is, sorry, Aman, do you want to go next? I can take the later one.
So, okay, so for a retail investor, Vishal, how will the investors know that the new ZCZB is listed for considering making applications? How do they know if there's a new ZCZB that's being listed?
Okay. So if you remember, we were discussing as to awareness.
Right.
So right now, if an IPO is coming up in the market, we get to know through the media, through the news channel, through the broking apps, right, or through the stock exchange. Right now, as far as this sector is concerned, it will be uploaded on the website of stock exchange and on the website of the donor, the NPO basically. And the donors or the retail investors have to go through these websites only because currently awareness need to be there. Like more awareness is required in the market as to this is the new thing which is there. NPOs are coming up for listing and you can donate money. So say, and one more thing is right now ATG is not available, but once the ATG is available, it will be of more benefit for everyone because then one would participate in this more actively, right? So currently they have to go through the websites and the media only. In future, maybe if BSC, NSC or any other platform is there for this NPOs, it may come up. But right now it is through stock exchange and the NPOs website only. In the current scenario also, when an IPO comes, DRSP or draft prospectus or red herring prospectus is uploaded on the website of issuer and the stock exchange only. But the other participants of the market that take that information and works, media works on it, the other platforms, brokerage houses works on it. Right now, maybe slowly and steadily, this process will also come for, like more awareness will come for ZCHP issuances also.
Okay.
Vishal, I'm sure so there's a question, but I think I'm just reframing it in a different manner to ask you. Is the list of all registered NPOs or things available on the SEBI website?
Not available on the SEBI website, but it is available on the website of BSC NSE. So when we go on BSC or NSE website, we'll find the list of registered NPOs over there. And we will also find offer documents which have been filed. So maybe if you can see, some offer documents have been filed. Only one listing has been done till date, but offer documents, if we see, there have been, I believe, almost 7 to 8 offer documents have been filed. And there was one more document which was filed 3 days back. Like there have been filings done now.
Thanks, Vishal. I guess thank you and thanks, Aman, for supporting me in grilling Vishal for the detailed session and the Q&As. And we really thank the participants for sending in so many questions. I hope we've been able to take up all your questions and Vishal's been able to answer those questions for all of us. And I would really like to thank once again Vishal for his time and his knowledge sharing with all of us. And I would really like to kind of thank the Institute of Chartered Accountants for bringing up such sessions and definitely the SRSB board for taking up this great initiative of, spreading the knowledge and awareness around such topics, which are totally new in this segment. Thank you to all participants and we can close the session today. It's been great. And thanks, Aman, to join me on this. Thank you.
Thanks.
On behalf of Sustainability Reporting Standards Board, and the Institute of Social Auditors of India. I would like to thank Vishal Sancheti ji for such a wonderful session, and it was an excellent session, I must say. And many of aspects of relating to the social enterprises listing and registration are now more clear to everyone. I hope so. And I would also like to thank Aman Atra ji and Ruchi Gupta ji for coordinating for this session, taking out all of you for taking out your valuable time from busy schedules for Institute. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.